It's great to see you too, Kent. We are in Digitized Live. Welcome to your Wednesday's dose of digital awesomeness. So, Digitized Live, unlocking your digital potential. We are season 3, episode 7, and it is still going great guns. And we are very, very excited to get started today. So, should we dive right in, Kent? Awesome, action-packed show. So my big digital observation of the week has been the amount of satellite traffic that is going to be continuing to grow around the outside of our planet. I know this sounds weird, but in terms of us racing to 5G, and I know all around the world there's mixed opinions about whether 5G is healthy for us or unhealthy for us. I'm not sure what anybody's opinion is. If you have an opinion, type it in the chat box, send us a note about it all. We'd love to share your thoughts on that. But the one big observation is that there's now an increased level of bids of companies who want to be the satellite air traffic controllers. So think about all the planes, the amount of like tens of thousands of flights that are taken, we used to be taken on a daily basis all around the world. We now have satellites that are being uploaded into our orbit. And of course, with Skylink going up and Amazon's satellites being launched this week, we just have the most incredible traffic going on. I would imagine at some point we're going to look up at the starry sky and you're going to just see all the stars moving, which is going to be like some sort of a satellite constellation. So that's my biggest digital observation, which was like, wow, we have got a lot going on just outside the surface of our planet, which I didn't realize until this week of really taking a closer look. And I'll send through a visualization of it in the chat box. Maybe it's something you can share during the course of this chat. So that's my big observation. Kent, what about you? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hmm. Hmm. Wow. Oh, interesting. Wow. You can import Evernote into Rome. Hmm. Very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, I'm signing up to Rome today. Hmm. Hmm. Awesome. What I've also done in the chat box over here, Kent, is put up that there's a link to the satellite graphic that I was talking about that I managed to find. Just if I'm not sure if you wanted to do a visual behind you there for a second as we're talking. But moving on to our main topic today, is really interesting because I think that there's a really great link and a bridge from what you just shared around Rome and to the topic we wanted to touch on to start a conversation. We'll be probably going back to this several times, especially with what's going on in the world right now, which is digital integrity and digital ethics. Now, what we mean by that is the information that we have and the type of software and hardware that we have now available to us, the processing power, there's just the computing speed, the ability to manipulate information, to manipulate graphics, visuals, all those kinds of things. Yeah, if you push play on that one, you'll see this is pretty wild. There you go. Look at this. This is a yeah, that's right. We're out in space with the satellites. So this over here, just jumping back, is what I was sharing with you. Is like you can start to see. I would imagine once Skylink and others are up there, it's going to be really fascinating to watch this. These are all the satellites that are currently orbiting our world that we know of course. Um, and just look at the flight path, and you can imagine the debris. And could you imagine like trying to launch yourself from space to get through all of this without colliding into any of these? It would be really fascinating, like the air traffic control around all of this. I'm also fascinated by that one stripe of satellites you'll see that runs. It's going around the world right now. But you see, when it comes back, you see it crosses our equator line almost. Like there's literally like a train line. You see here, it comes across the screen right now. Fascinating, super interesting, right? Yeah, yeah, it's super, super cool links there. So this idea of digital integrity and digital ethics, like you'll see here, even linking all these conversations in a Rome type of way, is that when you're talking about gathering the right information, and you're also thinking about our increased internet speeds and our 5G, which means that everybody gets online, computer software, hardware, processing power, what Ken talked about in one of the previous programs, the NVIDIA chip, and just the speed and processing power, we are experiencing way more misinformation. We're experiencing a lot more deep fakes. I know, Kent, you've got some really good thoughts on those ones as well. But there's this idea that the idea of digital integrity is that the like the wild wild west, if you really think of those old action movies where somebody rolls into town and there's no real law and order, so everybody just gets to do what they do, and what you really see is the integrity of a human being. They're either using their power to manipulate to gain more power by putting other people down or by misinforming other people, keeping them in the dark, or there's the others, which are the ones that are doing right, which is really trying to bring everybody on the journey and to create a really thriving ecosystem where all benefit. I think we're at that kind of a crossroad. And I think that this digital integrity and digital ethics is going to be pushing us even further into that discussion. Is what we're doing with what we have available to us the right thing or not the right thing? I know for all of us, we'll believe that it's the right thing for us, but we have to start having empathy, which is incredibly hard the more we're in a digital environment, because I'm not physically with somebody unless I'm with my family. We're now still in quarantine. So, like right now, Kent and I have spent the whole year, really, our digital versions of ourselves have been hanging out. We haven't seen each other in person since maybe February, I think. And so, for this entire year, we've been building a company, we've been, running events, we've been producing shows, and we haven't been in person. We've just been, it's the digital versions of ourselves. But what's interesting in the way we're doing things is that we're doing things with integrity and ethics. We talk about that a lot as we're building network effects and partnerships and things like that in this environment, because what we know is that it's what is happening in private compliance, not in public compliance. It's what we're doing when no one is watching that really matters the most. And I think what is happening with our digital environment, are we the same person when we're in our private space that we are in our public space? Or are we completely different people? And so I think there's an interesting thing that's happening with the digital environment and our ability to search the web and drop into rabbit holes and portholes and black holes and and light holes and new universes and all these kinds of things. What do we do with that? And so one of the things to spark as a conversation here on the show that I think we need to start layering into a lot more of our conversations is the idea of digital integrity and digital ethics. And I'd love to get your take on that, Kent. You totally free people out. Hmm. 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 Right. Awesome. Hmm. That's right. Awesome. It's awesome. Something you mentioned earlier as well that I just wrote down in my notes to discuss today is for anybody that's really trying to build followings or is out on social, like whether you're using any of the platforms to brand your company or put out content or any of those kinds of things, off of any of the recommendations we've given over season 1, 2, and 3 to you guys, is that what we are noticing for those that are starting to get some more success, growing numbers, those kinds of things, is that there's also been an increase in trolling, meaning like you'll just have these random comments or you'll have people that jump on your accounts trying to pull traffic off of your accounts, all those. That's also digital integrity. That's also digital ethics. Now, what we've also found out is that a lot of those are bots, meaning that those aren't real people. There's some sort of a program that goes out that if certain keywords that you're using or content that you're talking about, and especially during this climate when we have a political election, it is wild how much is now showing up between if you believe this or you believe that. There'll just be this swarming of the alternative perspective, especially if you're taking a stand on a particular direction. That there will be people that will, or there are bots, or there's content that will start to try and sway perspective. That is another thing that we've got to just watch out for. And so, one of the big tips as we kind of close this out was one of the big tips that Kent and I have for you, and I know Kent, you've got some others too, but this idea is fact checking. I know it sounds funny and it's got a kind of a bad rap lately, but it's actually going to be very, very important. Which is that we've been very trusting of certain sources of information and media, entertainment, or spokespeople for decades and decades. It's like, when the news used to come on, when I was younger on TV, like what they said was like gold. They knew, they had the access. Now, in hindsight, you realize, well, not all of it was exactly right. Not all of those sources were correct. There was a lot of self opinion thrown in there. There's a lot of like personal agenda thrown in there. And so, what's very important is, like with the Rome tool that Kent was sharing earlier in the show, start to collect your resources, start to fact check. I think there's something very interesting about not just believing the very first thing that comes up, but doing your due diligence to check differences of opinions. It's the same when Amazon first started and people were reviewing and rating products, until it became a thing which is like, just give us a 5-star and we'll give you a fat discount, which is all going on in the background. That's not fully digital integrity. That's manipulating an outcome. But what you can do is start to really research, that is the thing that you're believing, or is the decision you want to make, or is the thing that you want to create, or, if you're getting certain types of opinions on what you're building or developing through your digital and your digitization of your world, fact check. Fact checking is important. It really is. Like, go into this from a Switzerland perspective, be neutral, really collect your information like a good researcher and a good scientist would. Don't take everything just, for the sake of an emotional response, but start to fact check. And I think the more that we all get to do that, we actually start to get we get to hold the sources of information providing accountable to what information they're providing. So any thoughts on that one, Ken, as a tip and a recommendation?
Yeah, just quickly, when you're doing that fact checking, make sure that you're going for multi-source. So if you see a news article on site A, and I'm completely impartial in this comment as to what sources, go and pick up a site B and a site C. I know it takes a little time, but it is absolutely worth it in a world where people are effectively trolling through major news media as well. So just take a minute to look for the alternate viewpoints and then make your own decision. That's perfectly fine. No one should be telling you otherwise, but at least not in my opinion. So just take that moment, look for multi-source points of information, follow up, connect with the people that, if you can, that are providing this information. That's easier now than it's ever been. So do that, and I think you'll find that you build a certain amount of wisdom and capability and knowledge that will reward you as we continue to move forward in this now extremely digitized future that we live in at all levels, and all ages of our life.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, as we come to close, what are big things that are going on in the next week for us, Kent? You got anything going on that's real fun to point some people towards?
I've got one. Let me grab that here. I even have a web page to show for this one. So this is called Surviving the School Year. For those of you that don't know, Digitized coordinates and helps run and manage large-scale digital events. And this particular one is the next Digitized event that's coming up. It's called Surviving the School Year, and it's going to be a guide, an interactive, real-time, community-driven guide to creating a thriving future for our children while navigating what the COVID-19 pandemic has done to education. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be workshops, and seminars, and stages, and booths, and sponsors, and we're hoping for some interesting talent that's going to come. This takes work to get these things done, but we've got some interesting people that are saying they'd like to be a part of this, and so that's a fun one that's coming up. I believe it's November 18th. It just says November 2020 here, but just go to exoworld.live/school-2020, and I'll try to put it up on the screen if I can. But the idea is that you can just click that green button and book a spot. Booking a spot doesn't obligate you to a thing. It just signals us that you'd like to know what's going on. And so check that out. That's the next Digitized Live produced event that's coming up. So if you want to see what we're up to on the event side, that happens off camera. So, because we're behind the cameras on those, not in front. But yeah, check it out. And what do you have? I know you've got a couple of really cool things coming up, Kyle. What are
Yeah,
those?
there's a link in the chat box right now. The growth faculty is coming up next week, and then a couple of weeks after that, I've got two things going on there where we are talking about mastering the art of reinvention. So, something that we talk quite a bit on the show, which is how do we go about developing ourselves, because what we realize is there's no going back, there is a going forward, and some of the things in the systems that we've been very accustomed to are no longer serving us. And so how do we actually reinvent into something new? So if you scroll up a little bit, you'll see that the talks there, just there, you can see there's myself, then Mr. Simon Sinek, come after myself, and Kylie Lewis. So there's a couple good talks happening there. And Derek Gaunt. There's a few interesting folk on this one, but that is going to be next week, and then there's in a couple weeks from then. So that's something to check out as well. And then this week, here's one more. This week, which is actually happening right now, is that in South Africa, Kent and I are both faculty with Singularity University. We have some stuff coming up there. There's the global summit that is happening in South Africa right now, which is very interesting because it's all in three-dimensional virtual reality space. So the talk itself, just so you guys know, and we can maybe get into a show around this, is that I had to shoot my talk twice on a green screen in different perspectives, and then what they've done is actually put that into a virtual reality environment. So very, very crazy. I'm not sure if they've got any content on there about it, but this is a good one. It's running for several days. There's quite a few different speakers and some fun talks, and it's all around what the future is holding. So all very much in digital, and digitization will be a thread through this, but this is more around what's going on in the exponential technology. So lots of really cool things and cool speakers. So lots of good stuff. Kent and I'll be able to bring you back our debriefs on all the talks and the events that we're doing, so that we can tell you things that we're learning and keep you all up to date with unlocking your digital potential. So with that, thank you so much, Kent. Always a pleasure. Such big topics today. I know we've got a list of huge topics.
Yeah.
So going to be a very thoughtful season, as probably would be season 4. But anything else before we close out? And thank you
Well,
again
I
for
would just say that we're aiming for a slightly shorter format on the live shows. We think that's a little more conducive to participation and people being able to stay for the whole thing. And we're going to be pulling out some of these meatier subjects, and we're going to get back into where we're always experimenting. So we've been experimenting heavily with live. We're going to be producing deeper dives on those meatier topics that we'll post to the channel as we call them, pre-roll, but they're just things that we record in advance. And there's a lot of stuff there already like that, but we're going to start to be getting back into that. So look forward to that. And if we want to know when a video posts, click the like, click the subscribe, hit the notification button, and I can't tell you how much that helps us. Like 90% of the people that watch the show aren't subscribed. So just go ahead and click it. It's not a big thing, and it signals YouTube that our content should exist, and they need to know. So as you wish, but that's it, Kyle. With that, I think we're ready to close out for the day. So I'm gonna take us out. Really wonderful. Thank you, and a huge thanks for all those folks out there that take the time to watch our show and reach out to us and contact us separately and tell us about what they're doing. If you're doing something exciting, tell us about it. We'll have you on the show. We love doing that. Okay?
awesome.
All right,
Take good care, everybody.
Take care. Bye now.